Hey guys, Bix Weir, roadto.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of coffee. I'm gonna do zero hedge this morning. This first article on zero hedge cracks me up because my brother and his friend actually knew Mnuchin's wife a long time ago. I think when they were in high school or something, and partied with her up in Tahoe. And what did they expect? I mean, what did they expect from a guy like Steve Mnuchin, multi-zillionaire, Goldman Sachs, uh, guy who financed movies for a living? I mean, I'm surprised this is the most they can get on Mnuchin. His wife is nuts. She's not the sharpest tack in the box of tacks. But yeah, stupid move on her part to even have a Twitter account. That should be required. That the husbands and wives of people serving in the U.S. Government can't have Twitter accounts. Crazy stuff. But that's the kind of crap that gets thrown around these days. That's more exciting than really understanding what's going on in the financial markets, and the brink of collapse that we're at doesn't really get reported on normal news stations. You get stuff like this. So more of the same. Google folds, restores account of banned statistics professor. Google is in deep trouble, and they deserve to be in deep trouble. The things they do behind the scenes are criminal, in my opinion. Yes, I know they're a private company. I mean, they're publicly owned, but and companies that don't have a monopoly can do whatever they want, really, within the limits of the law. I would say that Google kind of does have a monopoly. I would question whether they do or do not, but if they do have a monopoly, no, you can't ban people. That's limiting freedom of speech. But it hasn't been proven in court that they have a monopoly on this type of media, the search media and YouTube. Taking in all the arms of Google, you can make a case for a significant majority stronghold over the entertainment industry and the news industry, media industry. I would make that case, but it hasn't been made, so they can continue to ban whoever they want. There is a public relations backlash. I think they're starting to feel it now, which is good. Hey, look at this. Stocks are surging at the open on report Trump making strides on tax reform. That's so ridiculous. Just the whole thing about why stocks go up or down is ridiculous. It's a computer program. And all they do is click a mouse and the stock market goes up, down, sideways. Same with gold, silver. Same with gold, especially gold. Gold is allowed to move up to keep people away from silver. I remember when silver went up, closing on $2,000, and I'm like, gold went up, closing on $2,000. I was like, wow, gold's really outperforming silver when these things are breaking loose. Of course, they weren't breaking loose. This was right before the 2011 silver massacre. They let silver go to $50, and then they slammed it down. And you look at gold; it went to over double its all-time high. Its all-time high was $800 and something dollars, and they let it go to, I think, 1,800 or in that range, 1,900. I think it hit. But silver was never allowed to go above its all-time highs. All computer programs run by the U.S. Chief of Staff, Obama's Chief of Staff, Bill Daley, from J.P. Morgan, who was placed there as Obama's Chief of Staff in order to rig the gold and silver markets, and that's exactly what was done. So yeah, it does not surprise me that the stock market is surging at a time when Trump gives a speech that we're going to spend more money in Afghanistan. And if you want to get the markets right, do exactly the opposite of Dennis Gartman. We're a bit uneasy this morning, being short. So Dennis will turn long, and that's when you short. It's very simple to game these markets because you just have to do the opposite of Dennis Gartman. Ron Paul is still out there fighting the fight. I think he knows a lot more than what he's leading on. Ron Paul urges America oppose fascism of the left and of the right and the left. Following the recent clashes between the alt-right and the group Antifa, some libertarians have debated which group should they should support? The answer is simple. Neither. The alt-right and its leftist opponents are two sides of the same authoritarian coin. Absolutely. You go, Ron. Love you, baby. But yeah, absolutely. And the George Soroses of the world are trying to foment that type of angst between the left and the right to start a civil war. And they think that's what's going to get Trump out of office. I think Trump's getting pretty much fed up and tired of the BS. So he'll probably leave office on his own, which would probably start some type of civil war. I don't know who would be put in his place. Bernie Sanders, I think, is out there. If you're going to run a new election, a special election, Bernie might be the man. But that's the other problem is we've already gone down the rabbit hole. You know, one half of the country will literally pick up arms and go to war. And they're doing a good job to start this civil war. And I think it's a high possibility that if Trump leaves either by, being impeached or by walking away voluntarily or by being assassinated, I think you will see at least a war on government. And I don't mean just, I'm mad at you, Mr. Government. I mean these people picking up arms and do what our founding fathers said. If you have a problem with your government and you can't get over it, sometimes you got to shed some blood for the tyranny to go away. So it's sad and it's scary, and the United States is not used to that type of behavior. We've always been very complacent and compliant to whatever the government wants, and I don't think it's going to happen this time. Because of the people stirring up the trouble. Now Trump can end all this mess just by releasing all the information he has on who's doing this and why. All of Hillary Clinton's emails, which implicate both the left and the right. He could release all those, and all of a sudden everybody say, "Wait a minute, we shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be fighting our government." Hopefully he'll do that before he walks away. This whole thing about the USS John McCain, another ship, military ship, getting blown a hole in the side by something hitting it by accident. I don't buy it. I think that's a cover story. I think there's some kind of terrorist action going on, ramming the side of a ship with explosives type of stuff. Just because they've got all the radar, you can't approach these are highly armed military vessels that keep getting run into by these stray container ships. I don't know about that, but I don't know, so that would be a guess. We are fiddling while Rome burns. Solutions abound, but they require the retirement of obsolete systems that defend entrenched interests and soul-crushing inequities. Absolutely, but that's the thing. If you take those away, the whole system collapses. And that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of the truth, of reality of how free markets actually work. We haven't had free markets in the United States probably ever. Definitely since the invention of computers in the 1960s, the computer programs that Alan Greenspan wrote to rig the markets, which he implemented under Arthur Burns as the head of the CEA, the Council of Economic Advisors. If you know Road to Ruta, you know the whole story. This whole thing in Charlottesville was a setup. It's a false flag, but it's getting people all riled up. How can you fight a fight that can't be won? Yes, people should have free speech, and yes, you should be mad at people who speak against what you like. But the way our government is doing it to stir up as much trouble as possible is it's fairly obvious that they're doing it on purpose. And I think the people within the government over there in Charlottesville and any government that intentionally stirs the pot of racism, white supremacy, Antifa, you name it, I think they all should be called out for what they've done. And the plans that go on behind the scenes need to be exposed. Okay, this is a big one. Clearly awful news. UK subprime lender Provident crashes most on record. CEO quits. Now, Provident is a large derivative player. Look out, my friends. This is without a doubt a disaster, said Shore Capital's Gary Greenwood. Future profit performance will depend on management's ability to rescue the situation, which is highly uncertain. We expect that further heads will roll. When derivative companies crash, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for those derivatives to start being called, and then the problem is dealt with, usually with some kind of government bailout. So if we are looking square in the face of a government bailout, we're talking mid-September to the end of September, which is in the prime area, because every derivative has a counterparty. And when those counterparties start losing money, the banksters start dying. And I think this is the first of many to come over the next couple months. So yeah, I'm excited to see this. And it is, yes, I believe it is without a doubt a disaster. So more on that coming up in the days and weeks ahead. Stocks rebound. No surprise there. Remember, the worse things get, the more they're going to pump the stock market and suppress the gold and silver markets. That's what always happens. It's the exact opposite of what you would think. Bill Blaine, there is a last day of Rome feel to the news these days. I suspect we're into completely uncharted waters here. The central bankers know we need to normalize and rebuild the broken structures of capitalism and market-based economies without it becoming too apparent they are so broken, which would cause financial panic. On the other hand, the cure might prove as painful as the self-inflicted injury of QA. Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, normalizing with the central bank means rigging. Nothing has been normal since the 1970s. It's all rigged, and it has been rigged. And everybody should know how much it is rigged. If the riggers, meaning the treasuries around the world, the central banks around the world, the prime dealers of the central banks, you know, the JP Morgans and HSBC and Citibank and all those big banks, we all know who they are, Deutsche Bank. If they were to stop having those guys go into the market and continually fix problems, and there really was a free market, the whole thing would implode overnight and everything would shut their doors. So that's what they're trying to save against. So there is no normalization, would be continuing to rig. That's what's been normal over the last 40 years. Trump unveils new dramatic Afghanistan strategy. Trump is doing what every single president before him has done since the 1970s, and that is go to war, spend as much money as possible to destroy the monetary system. And he is just keeping that. He doesn't want his policies and his people to be blamed for what he knows is coming any day now, the collapse of the monetary system. But this is the news of the week for you gold bugs, and it just cracks me up. Steve Mnuchin visits Fort Knox and says gold is safe. Shortly before becoming the first Treasury Secretary to visit Fort Knox in 70 years, Mnuchin said, "I assume the gold is still there. It would be quite a movie if we walked in and there was no gold." Then upon emerging, he had 3 words for the American people. Gold is safe. Number 1, do you believe Steve Mnuchin? Anything about Steve Mnuchin? No. He's going to lie through his teeth because that's what he does. He's a liar. Number 2, the gold may be safe in there, but you know, who owns it? Who's got the ownership papers? How many times has it been swapped out? And number 3, does it even matter? It's a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of gold compared to all the gold the U.S. government has hidden. But I think the biggest thing is, why now? Why is Steve Mnuchin the only Treasury Secretary who's gone to see the Fort Knox gold? Why now? Because we're at the very end, very, very end of this game. And I mean, this just kicks it off and say, oh my God, why would he go in there? You know, why does he care? He brought his lovely wife to show off her Gucci within the gold vaults. And where is all the footage? You know, why not take the American? Why not have tours through there every single day? They're safe enough. They got enough guards and tanks there. There's a lot of cons going on. It could be that Mnuchin went in to release the gold there to keep the gold market under wraps, under control. I don't know, and you don't know, and nobody knows. But the very simple fact that he went there at this point in time in history speaks volumes as to where we stand as far as either crashing the unbacked monetary system, or returning to a gold standard, or using gold for something within the United States. And my guess would be Steve Mnuchin went in there to liberate the gold via computer programs. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. All right, let's see, anything else exciting here? Petition to label Antifa a terrorist organization reaches critical milestone. Absolutely, Antifa is a terrorist organization. Well, so are the white supremacists. So's the KKK. So is the U.S. government. It's interesting what you can call a terrorist organization. Antifa has earned its title due to its violent actions in multiple cities and their influence in the killings of multiple police officers throughout the United States. Absolutely. And who is the biggest funder of Antifa? George Soros, and probably the Clintons as well. So, well, the Clintons wouldn't spend their own money, but they'd spend other people's money. So, yep, that's what it looks like. And then the last article, what would a civil war look like in the United States? Let's click on that and see what we have here. Yes, there is civil war looming in the United States. It's so sad that they can create this kind of angst so that, yeah, everybody thinks that civil war is coming. But it will not look like an orderly pattern of descent which characterized the conflict of 1861 to 1865. It'll appear more like Yugoslavia breakup or the Russian-Chinese civil wars. Yeah, it's true. It's like, it's interesting. Who's going to go to war with whom, right? You got all your leftists in California and New York City, and then you've got people, the nationalists all throughout the country. They would have to travel. I would have to, if I wanted to go to war with Kentucky, I would have to travel to Kentucky with all my Californians, be fighting over there just to come back to my little sanctuary here. I don't see a civil war. I see more civil spat, little fightings, and then states breaking away from the federal government. That's very possible. But the little fights, there might be some areas that have a little mix of both, and those who have not will go after those who have with guns and knives and pitchforks, and that area will be all of a sudden free from those who have. So where will those who have go? They'll go to some place where they can feel safe, and it might be a mountain retreat. It might be New York City, and I don't know. I think lawlessness will definitely break out in the United States if we keep going down this path, the path of lying and cheating and stealing and funding groups that cause these civil disruptions. So they're definitely, Trump can stop this by releasing all the information he has on the bad guys, but will he do it? Because he knows that'll destroy the fabric of the United States. But every once in a while, you got to destroy the fabric of a country like ours, because people have gotten away with too much for too long, and I think that's kind of where we are. Sad but true, but it's better than where we were headed. We were headed into a total destruction of our freedoms and liberties, and I think people are ready to fight for what they believe in, whichever side you're on, especially if the banking system falters, which I believe it will over the next couple months. So good luck out there to all of us. This is Bix Weir, roadtoruda.com. Don't forget to go to Road to Ruda, sign up for the free emails, and if you're into this Road to Ruda stuff, sign up for a private road subscription. Get you the Friday road trips, all the special reports on the website, and a 1 ounce silver Road to Ruda coin, the best coin out there, right up there with Freedom Girl. I get a lot of comments saying, I cherish this Road to Ruda one more than I do my Freedom Girl coin. That's cool. I'm glad you guys like the coin. I love it. And tell your friends about it. We'll talk to you later.